Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our news, checking up our headlines. In Chile, demonstrators were repressed by Carabinero forces when they demonstrated in support and celebration of the approval of a bill that would allow citizens to withdraw 10% of their pension funds. In the United States, Ohio's governor called for urgent action by all state residents to stop the spread of the coronavirus so it doesn't get out of control. South Africa surpassed 300,000 COVID-19 cases on Wednesday, continuing as the most affected country in the African continent. We begin with our news. You stay with us. In Chile, Carabineros forces repressed demonstrators who showed their support for the reform that will allow citizens to withdraw the 10% of their pension funds. Followed by the approval of the bill that allowed the early withdrawal of pensions, demonstrators took to the streets to express their support for this project in La Hermida, Villafranca, Punta Arenas, and the Chilean capital, where Carabineros were present to stop these celebrations, while in the city of Valdivia, they were also repressed with tear gas. The Chilean pension model was established during Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship and was one of the central reasons for the social explosion that began in October last year. These celebrations came after the Chamber of Deputies approved the bill that allowed citizens to withdraw the 10% of anticipated pension funds. After a long dispute, the bill to regard the withdrawal of pension funds received approval with 95 votes in favor, 36 against, and 22 abstentions. However, the article proposing the creation of a collective solidarity fund to compensate those who wish to withdraw this 10% was rejected. Opposition deputies have said they will replace this indication in the Senate debate. Now, missing the process in the Senate were 3/5, and there were needed 26 votes from the upper house for the final approval of the bill. And Peru named a new health minister for the second time during COVID-19 pandemic. This Wednesday, President Martín Vizcarra appointed a new health minister as part of a cabinet reshuffle in which there were changed 11 of the 18 ministers. According to the Peruvian president, the new guideline of his cabinet is the economic recovery of the country. Peru is the second worst hit country by the pandemic in Latin America and the Caribbean, and the fifth worldwide with 333,000 cases recorded.
I am sure that with this new, consistent and renewed cabinet, we will be able to advance and comply with the course we have set ourselves.
In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro reiterated that the Venezuelan people and its government are prepared to defend its sovereignty and integrity in the face of the continued attacks from the United States.
Every day they attempt to manipulate the Spaniard and the European television. I made this claim yesterday. Washington will start a brutal campaign funded by millions of dollars from the United States against Venezuela. By all means, here and there and every day, we are prepared to battle this.
Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez this Wednesday also announced 279 community-transmitted COVID-19 cases in the country.
In the last 24 hours, 276 new cases have been reported, distributed in the following states. In the state of Zulia, 90 cases. Zulia already has 2,054 active cases, which 83 cases are imported. They are in the integral social attention pots. Then it's the capital district, with 73 active cases, but in total, it already has 912 cases. Then follows Miranda, with 630 active cases, and today, 45 new cases are being reported.
Rodriguez further noted that there were reported 142 new imported cases. Like this, Venezuela amounts to date 10,428 COVID-19 infections.
We also have to inform that in the last 24 hours, 142 imported cases have been registered, of which 129 entered through Colombia, 87 through the state of Apure, 41 through the state of Táchira and Zulia together, then 5 cases from Brazil. But before continue, notice that Colombia already has 3,511 cases in Venezuela, and the imported cases represent 47%, that is 4,860 cases out of 10,800.
Like this, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back with some more news. We are back with our news. Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine, who has called for urgent action by all state residents to stop the spread of the coronavirus last week. The state saw its highest number since the easing of the lockdown, with more than 1,500 confirmed cases in a single day. This because they don't want the situation to get out of control.
Reached the most critical point in our battle against the coronavirus. If all of us do not take immediate action to slow this virus down, the tragedy that we see playing out on our television screens every day in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and California may well be our reality in just a matter of weeks.
George Floyd's family has filed a lawsuit against Minneapolis police and the 4 officers charged with his death. Floyd's family alleged that the officers violated Floyd's rights when they restrained him, and the city allowed a culture of excessive force, racism, and impunity to flourish in its police force.
And that is, it was not just the knee of Officer Derek Chauvin on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, but it was the knee of the entire Minneapolis Police Department on the neck of George Floyd that killed him. Now, this is an unprecedented case. And with this lawsuit, we seek to set a precedence to make it financially prohibitive that the police won't wrongfully kill marginalized people, especially black people, in the future.
And COVID-19 death toll worldwide has now surpassed 583,000, with over 13.5 million cases confirmed. According to the World Health Organization, half of the cases have been reported in the Americas, home to more than 7.1 million cases. Europe, the second most affected region, has reported over 2.6 million cases, followed by the Middle East with 1.3 million. The surge in COVID-19 cases continue in the Americas as well as in South Asia and Africa. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for a commitment to multilateralism to help protect and bolster the global economy as the COVID-19 pandemic has started to cause major setbacks and threatens the livelihoods of billions of people.
I'm not here today to tell you that everything will be okay. We need to be honest with ourselves. The COVID-19 crisis is having devastating impacts because of our past and present failures. Working hours, equivalent to some 400 million jobs, were lost in the second quarter of 2020. And we are experiencing the sharpest decline in per capita income since 1870. Between 7 and 100 million people could be pushed into extreme poverty. And some 265 million could face acute food insecurity by year's end, double the number at risk before the crisis. And the impact of this pandemic is falling disproportionately on the most vulnerable. At a time when we desperately need to leap ahead, COVID-19 could set us back years and even decades, leaving countries with massive fiscal and growth challenges.
And the European Commission has warned the European Union member states of the potential effect of COVID-19 interaction with seasonal flu to come in autumn and called on governments to better coordinate strategies to counter a possible second wave of the pandemic.
Since actions converged, the situation, of course, got better, and this is the approach we want to apply in the future. We do not want to see the lack of coordination that that governed the initial reaction of our member states at the beginning of the pandemic. Second,
Vice President Schinas mentioned the interaction of the seasonal flu with COVID-19. Yes, I call it the cocktail effect. And this is something that we may be encountering, that we did not encounter early on in the year, 4 months ago. And we are raising in this communication the need for member states to be prepared for this.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has stressed that China's diplomacy has contributed to the global fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and called for efforts to establish regional emergency liaison mechanisms to enable a quicker response to public health emergencies.
中方支持世界卫生组织发挥领导作用。
China supports the World Health Organization in leading the global efforts to develop science-based and proper control and treatment and minimize cross-border spread. I call on G20 members to enhance anti-epidemic information sharing with the support of the WHO and promote control and treatment protocols that are comprehensive, systematic, and effective, and call a high-level meeting on international public health security in due course.
And over 41,000 people, including soldiers and firefighters, are working in rescue and recovery efforts following floods in East China's Jiangxi province. Since Monday, the extensive floods have affected over more than 5 million people in the province. A contingent of soldiers rushed to repair an embankment in Poyang County on Tuesday. The continuing heavy rainfall has caused extensive damages, with many rivers and embankments collapsing, while industrial parks, as well as residential communities across several regions of China, have been heavily impacted. And renewed restrictions took effect in Hong Kong on Wednesday as the Asian financial center battles a resurgence of COVID-19. The decision comes after the Special Administrative Region recorded 52 new confirmed COVID-19 cases last Monday, of which 41 are believed to have been locally transmitted. Public gatherings are once again restricted to 4 people after the limit was eased last month to allow up to 50. Restaurants are limited to takeout after 6 p.m. and mask wearing has been compulsory on public transport for the first time. Those not wearing a mask face fines of up to $650. About 300 new cases have been reported since July 6, including more than 220 locally transmitted cases. And Tokyo's governor issued a warning on Wednesday about the escalating spread of the coronavirus in the Japanese capital, requesting that residents and business owners step up preventative measures.
Regarding beds for moderately ill patients, we have requested medical institutions to secure 2,700 beds in line with Level 2. In addition, due to the increasing number of asymptomatic, mildly ill patients in the younger generation, we will open 2 new accommodation medical facilities tomorrow, on 16 and next week. Please avoid going to restaurants that do not have adequate infection control measures. Avoid using shops that are not sanitized, ventilated, or where people don't wear masks.
Like this, we go for another break. You stay tuned with us. We'll be right back with some more news. We are back with our news. COVID-19 spread in South Africa continues to worsen as cases of infection surpass 300,000 on Wednesday. According to the health minister, Dr. Soweli Kisise. There was a rise of 12,757 cases on Wednesday to reach 311,049. Also, there were 107 new COVID-19 deaths, raising the toll to 4,453. Early this week, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced new restrictive measures to prevent social gatherings. And Mali welcomed this Wednesday a mediation mission for politics conflicts after disruptions in the country. Representatives of the Economic Community of West African States, led by the former Nigerian President Jonathan Goodluck, arrived to Bamako to facilitate the dialogue between the Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and opposition leaders over unrest that demand the president's resignation due to a political crisis that affects the country. The demonstrations erupted in the midst of political tensions followed by the legislative elections past March 2020, with various sectors demanding fraud.
With your cooperation and the good people of Mali who will want to solve the problems, not about individuals, but about the collective interests of the country, I think we'll have a way of resolving the issues. This must be man-made issues, not earthquakes that we have no control. So I believe we'll be able to get something done. You will work with us and we'll succeed.
And Senegalese authorities announced the resumption of international flights this Wednesday while conducting strict health protocols to curb the spread of the COVID-19 virus.
It's the first day, so it's a timid recovery. Today, we have 7 passenger flights and 8 cargo flights. We have set up equipment and a system to welcome passengers and make sure they are treated in coronavirus conditions. It's a timid recovery. The planes will certainly fill up in the coming days. There will be more and more of them, and we think that in the next 2 months, we will have 30% of our traffic compared to last year.
Today, to come to Senegal, we demand a strict compliance with border measures, namely the wearing of masks. Everybody wears a mask. You have the physical distance, even at the seats you will rest. You have hydroalcoholic gels everywhere, even at the ATMs. When the passengers arrive, you have thermal cameras, you have the thermoflash. We are in a box where you have to feedback of the temperature, which allows us to insulate them. We have also asked by mutual agreement with the civil aviation that to arrive in Senegal to have a PCR test that is negative through laboratories that have been cleared.
Tunisian Prime Minister Elias Fakhafka resigned from his post after a dispute with the Endena party that had withdrawn its support from the government. Fakhfakh had handed his resignation to Tunisian President Kais Saied on Wednesday after less than 5 months in office in order to pave the way to get out of the crisis and avert further difficulties for the country, the statement said. He warned all those who attempted to harm the security and interest of the country, saying he will continue to fully shoulder his responsibilities. The president must now nominate a replacement to start consultations to form a new government. Ethiopia started filling its Grand Renaissance Dam on Wednesday. The decision was addressed by the Ethiopian Water Minister Saleshi Bekele a day after talks with Sudan and Egypt over the giant hydroelectric project became deadlocked. The failure of talks on Monday sank hopes that the 3 countries could resolve their differences and sign an agreement on the dam's operation before Ethiopia began filling it. Addis Ababa had previously pledged to start storing water in the dam's vast reservoir at the start of the wet season in July, when rains flood the Blue Nile. And the signing of a partial peace deal between the Sudanese government and an alliance of armed groups has been delayed. The mediation committee announced this on Tuesday. The partial agreement was the result of negotiations between the Sudanese authorities in Khartoum and the Armed Alliance, which includes the Sudan's People Liberation Movement, the Sudan Liberation Movement, and the Justice and Equality Movement. However, the agreement includes some of the influential armed groups in the country. The deal was due to bring to an end to the dispute between the Sudanese government and groups in Darfur and South Kordofan, among other areas of the country. In Kenya, flower farm workers in Naivasha are up in arms over lack of leadership and representation of their trade unions. In the wake of massive job losses and earnings in the sector due to COVID-19 pandemic, the workers have hit out at KATU and its top leadership for failing to act on their grievances. According to the Kenya Plantation and Agricultural Worker Unions, the KAPAWU, the remaining workforce is on unpaid leave, with hopes that things will stabilize in the coming weeks. The union further clarified that not a single worker in the sector has lost their jobs due to the pandemic. The workers' representative, Moses Njawangwa, from North Lake added that about 2 farms were still on half pay as they recovered from the losses. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has stressed that his country has never been isolated despite the efforts of the United States. This was during a cabinet session held this Wednesday, where President Hassan Rouhani also noted that progress in the country's development will not stop. The statements come on the 5th anniversary of the signing of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or known also as Iran nuclear deal. The Iranian president highlighted that the issues and failures of the JCPOA were the responsibility of the United States, which withdrew from the deal in 2018, while noting the peaceful and law-abiding framework of Iranian policy. An Iranian Health Ministry spokesperson, Sima Sadat Lari, reported over 2,300 new COVID-19 cases, taking the total number to over 264,000. She also noted that over 227,000 patients have recovered from the virus. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 death toll rose by almost 200 and now stands at more than 13,000. Irish authorities decided this Wednesday to postpone the transition to phase 4 of the country's reopening following an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases.
Today, the Cabinet agreed that the current public health measures should remain in place until the 10th of August. We have agreed that the country will now not be progressing to phase 4 of the revised roadmap for reopening society and business. The priority now must be to get that R number back below 1. By doing so, we will give ourselves the best chance possible to fully reopen our schools in late August.
As the Taoiseach has said, we're pausing proceeding with phase 4, we're postponing the reopening of the pubs, we're widening the mandatory use of face coverings, we're limiting the number of visitors we can have in our homes. We're staying at the current numbers for outdoor and indoor events.
And French President Emmanuel Macron met with the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez in Paris this Wednesday to discuss European Union coronavirus recovery measures. France and Germany had proposed creating one of €500 billion recovery fund that would be paid for through shared European Union borrowing. That proposal was then expanded by the European Union Commission, which put forward plans for a €750 billion fund made up mostly of grants. However, the proposal has faced resistance from Austria, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Sweden, who are reluctant to grant the funds without further conditions. And tensions briefly escalated in Sofia, Bulgaria, after a group of young men attempted to break into the parliament building but were stopped by police. Protesters threw bottles and flammable liquids at police, and at least 2 officers were injured. Meanwhile, thousands of mostly young Bulgarians took to the streets for the 7th day in a row to protest against the government and the country's top prosecutor, accusing them of corruption and links to criminal groups. With this information, we come to the end of News Brief, but of course you can find this and much more other information on our website, telesturenglish.net, where you can read up in articles, watch special interviews, and of course, update yourself about the latest information about COVID-19 around the world. The invitation has been made. You continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.